So we've missed all the introduction bit, but that's okay. And so what I'll do is I've got a short video that I will play for you. And I'll be stopping the video throughout and then going from there.
Notice you didn't mow up the back where we cleared out. Did you not want to go up there?
I didn't want to go in there at the moment because of that rain.
Oh.
Someone's on a mute.
The idea that our physical environment has the capacity to shape us, and therefore that a building has the ability to powerfully influence its users, is one of the main tenets of architecture and design. Teachers are at the forefront of education, innovation, and pedagogy. They are cognizant of the physical environment's ability to make or break creativity and stifle learning. It is the role of the architect to create the physical learning space that assists educators and provides an environment that strengthens growth and learning. According to the New South Wales Government Design for Schools document, working with stakeholder groups in the design of interiors and research selection of FF&E, ensuring that a school's pedagogical framework is considered is a key step for an effective design process. The pedagogical framework creates the structure around the philosophy of teaching and learning, and can be varied. It is a set of guidelines relating to quality teacher practice and represents modes of teaching so that all students can reach their full potential. Every education building needs a tailored design that fits its objectives and the characteristics of its learning community. Initial design review and confirmation of teaching and learning spaces must ensure that briefed areas and functions align with the pedagogical spatial determinants. The intent of this module is to create a resource for architects and school planners to refer to for the construction of new learning environments or the renovation of existing learning environments with the emphasis on education and pedagogy.
So let's look at today's objectives. So firstly, you would have seen on the screen the Polytec logo, but also you would have seen the Into Architecture logo. And we work very closely with Into Architecture, Into AP Learning. What we do is we prepare the CPD modules in line with the Australian Institute of Architects. So today's CPD module attracts one formal CPD point. And today's CPD module is looking to the future of educational or learning spaces. So we're going to be looking at spaces for education, spaces for learning. Point one is we're going to be discussing the primary acoustic problem in education buildings. So, you know, if someone's trying to deliver an educational message and there's noise in the background, like we're hearing at the moment, someone's not on mute, it can be very distracting and you lose focus. So imagine students that are going to a school and not hearing the educational message properly, they can't get the information that's going on. Then we'll look at describe material considerations that create inviting and inspiring spaces and enhance learning outcomes. So we're going to be looking at different materials from a perspective that will help in the learning process. You know, a lot of the younger students, they like sponges, and you would have heard this before, and maybe you even said it yourselves to your kids or younger generation people. So we'll look at things that are textured, things that are not textured, the materials and how that will affect their learning and their outcomes. And then number three, select quality material based on life cycle costing principles. Obviously, we'll be looking at products from a joinery perspective because that's where our strength is. And different size of board material how that works in terms of costing principles. And we'll also look at environmental friendly products and how that impacts the projects.
A study conducted at Salford University in Manchester, England, found that well-designed classrooms can improve student performance by 25%. Circulation space, lighting, acoustic performance, individuality, and colour selection were all factors which impacted on pupils' progress in the year-long study involving 751 primary school students. During a roundtable event held at Mossburn Academy in Hackney, London, Mossburn principal Peter Hughes highlighted the benefits of good design on pupils and teachers. He explains that the building supports behaviour, which in turn supports the teachers. It all works together as a single entity. In addition, the socio-economic phenomenon of two working parents has had implications for the need for purposeful spaces for before and aftercare facilities, as students are spending more time than ever before in learning environments. Until recently, there has been minimal discussion when it comes to the negative effect that noise and excessive reverberation has on the learning process. The cognitive performance for both children and adults is reduced by noise. The ideal classroom should be acoustically friendly for all children, regardless of ability, and should cater for a range of teaching styles in common practice today. Good acoustics should be one of the primary design considerations for all new classrooms, and existing buildings should be reassessed for their acoustic properties. However, there are no Australia-wide regulations or standards that encompass all aspects of the acoustical qualities of educational and training facilities. Whilst the Building Code of Australia, BCA, details minimum standards for buildings, it does not provide specific recommendations for educational facilities. The requirements of every student should be met with regards to audibility. Poor acoustics affects everyone, but can be particularly problematic for the following groups. Children under the age of 13. This group has an underdeveloped sense of hearing and comprehension. A limited vocabulary means if they miss a word, they can't easily fill it in. English as a second language, or ESL students. Students with learning disorders or hearing impairments. Stressed teachers. Trying to be heard over noise causes teachers to raise their voices, leading to increased stress and fatigue. The more reverberant a room is, the worse the speech intelligibility becomes. Reverberation is when sound waves hit hard surfaces found in a room, like walls, floors, and windows. The audible energy wave we call noise reflects back in the room, which causes the overall noise level in the room to rise. Noise problems in schools are at an all-time high due to the increasing use of hard surfaces, i.e. glass, metal, plaster, which reflect sound, creating very noisy rooms. The general trend towards creating flexible open-plan spaces, which can accommodate a variety of teaching methods simultaneously, also contributes to higher noise levels. Classrooms that are reverberant, or a lot of echo, and or too noisy make it difficult for teachers to speak and children to hear and understand. Background noise from services, shuffling of chairs, foot traffic, adjacent rooms and corridors can also create disturbances which interfere with concentration levels and performance.
So, there's a lot of construction going on at the moment in a lot of residential areas and areas where there are schools. Some schools are going through some renovations or expansions in their own facilities. All these noises, they work as distractions for people within the class who are trying to learn and trying to communicate their educational message. So we have to think together as architects and building designers of what we can do to try and minimize those sounds. And by using hard surfaces within a classroom, that just adds to the sound. Once the sound is through and around, it travels in waves like we saw in the video, and hits hard surfaces. That's called reverberation. It just magnifies the sound. So we have to think about how to try and minimize sounds going into the classroom, let alone what happens within an educational facility in the classroom itself. Yourselves, with students, they might drop a pen and it becomes a big production, picking up that pen back off the ground. So we're trying to minimize the sound that's within that classroom.
This area is gaining in importance as more group tasks are performed in today's schools. The higher the level of background noise, the more effort is required to understand others and to make yourself understood, which leads to miscommunication, frustration, and stress. The belief held by the AAAC, the Association of Australasian Acoustical Consultants, is that the acoustic standards provided within this document surpass those that are currently provided in many Australian schools. According to the AAAC, educational facilities should achieve appropriate background noise levels, reverberation times appropriate to the room, use and function, good signal-to-noise ratios, S/N, good speech intelligibility in open plan areas, and minimum disturbance or distraction from nearby or adjacent activities or external noise sources. Indoor environments, such as education buildings that are prone to generating noise, need to address acoustics as a matter of human health and welfare. Good acoustics in education buildings will, in most instances, mean high sound absorption. High sound absorption means less reverberation and a less stressful environment.
So in this particular image, sorry, it's a bit blurry. I stopped it a little bit when it's a little bit blurry, but there are certain ceiling panels that are available in the market that are designed to absorb the sound. So as a sound wave travels, these ceiling battens, tiles absorb the sound like we've got in this particular room. They're perforated and they're made especially to absorb the sound. Then you would see that there are some battens that are lower than the ceiling. So these battens are designed to minimize the sound reverberation. So as a sound wave travels, this is supposed to minimize it so that it doesn't bounce back and come back to where the students are. And you can use these in not just about education, but also in commercial office buildings and so forth. A lot of public areas will have them, as we see.
As there are high volumes of occupants located in the same room within education buildings, there is a higher demand to create the right interior acoustic environment, specifically when it comes to reverberation and speech intelligibility. Good listening conditions for...
In that previous picture, we saw that some of those battens have been used on the side as well. So you can use the battens on the side, and that'll certainly limit or reduce the amount of reverberation of the sound wave.
Students is referred to as having a high signal to noise ratio.
In language, infinitely many words can be written with a small set of letters. In arithmetic, infinitely many numbers can be composed from just a few digits. With the help of a symbol, zero, the principle of position, and the concept of base.
The teacher's voice needs to be loud and clear above the unoccupied background noise. For example, one way that acoustics can be improved with a space is through ceiling and wall selection. High-performance ceilings are a great solution for improved speech intelligibility. It is crucial to determine that the right ceiling panels meet all necessary safety requirements. As education facilities evolve into more flexible spaces, operable walls and sliding doors are more frequently specified, which will be discussed in more depth in Objective 2. An operable wall divides available space, enabling flexibility, while sound-rated panels still allows for effective noise control. When sound waves strike a partition, some are reflected from the surface staying in the same room as the source of the sound. Some are absorbed by the material of the partition, being converted to heat energy, and some are transmitted to the other side. When a plenum barrier is used, the sound blocking performance of the wall or door increases. When positioned above interior partitions that stop at the height of the suspended acoustic ceiling, a plenum barrier board stops noise and speech from travelling between rooms through the plenum above the ceiling. Australian and New Zealand Standard AS NZS 2107 Acoustics recommended design sound levels and reverberation times for building interiors provides required levels for a range of building types and spaces within them, including those for educational buildings as pictured. Teaching and
That chart we saw measures the sound in decibels. Sometimes, well, you can't really, if you're specifying a product into an education building, it's hard to get those readings until the whole space is all designed and everything's installed. So sometimes we get asked for, what sound rating is this product? You can't really measure sound off a board. It's got to be in a room, in an actual environment to get those sound ratings and those decibels. So I guess what I'm saying is when you're working on an educational project, if you're trying to achieve a particular sound level or reading, try and think about what you're going to be putting in there to absorb sound or to minimize the sound reverberation.
learning has changed and will continue to change, and is therefore important that the spaces within which we learn change accordingly to represent different pedagogies. For example, Steiner, Montessori, Reggio Emilia, and specialised schools, to name a few, or schools who choose to teach STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, in an interdisciplinary or integrated approach. Creating a stimulating environment can be achieved through the effective use of design and colour, and forms an integral part of an environment conducive to learning, memory retention, and concentration. It should be noted that consultation with schools is imperative to ensure that their needs are met. Certain sensations can overwhelm children with sensory processing issues. Some pupils may encounter sounds, smells, textures, and colours that can affect their ability to learn. The tolerance levels of individuals varies significantly. Therefore, an inclusive environment that has the capacity to minimise sensory overload, whilst also having provisions for stimulating the senses when necessary, enables equitable access and participation of all students. Some newly built facilities have incorporated sensory rooms. Other briefs consider design elements of the overall facility which addresses the varying needs of all that use it. Built pedagogy educational architecture is based on the premise that the design of built spaces has the capacity to influence the behaviours and actions of individuals within those spaces. A well-trained eye can read the space for the pedagogies that it facilitates. For example, a classroom with neat rows of desks embodies pedagogies of discipline and conformity, whereas spaces that are fluid and flexible can be said to embody pedagogies of freedom and self-discovery. This can be referred to as built pedagogy. Dr. Torrin Mohahan from the University of Carolina speaks on built pedagogy. He states, on the disciplinary side, the built environment can restrict learning possibilities by not allowing for certain movements or flows. For example, desks bolted to the ground make flexible interpretations of spatial use extremely difficult, and they impose directions for how space should be used. In the middle of the discipline or autonomy spectrum, there are built pedagogies that enable but do not require flexible behaviours. Movable walls and desks illustrate space left open to interpretive use. Finally, on the autonomy end, open classrooms invite and almost demand that individuals appropriate space to their perceived needs. Colour too plays a key role in creating an environment that fosters learning. In fact, according to Dr. Robert Gerard, colour is part of the electromagnetic spectrum which can affect neurological pathways in the brain and, as a result, can create a biochemical response. Therefore, using the right colour along with good placement choices can seriously affect the feelings, attention, and behaviour of students when learning. Neutral colours are recommended for walls, while a splash of colour can be added through furniture and joinery to what may be an otherwise dull classroom. Since colour is not used in large amounts on furniture, it does not have the same effect as bright colours on wall or furniture applications. Frank Menke, president of the International Association of Colour Consultants and Designers, conducts seminars on the psychological and physiological effects of colour, light, and human reaction to the built environment, and believes that the age of the student should also be considered. As documented in his work, Colour, Environment, and Human Response, Menke suggests that young students prefer the warmer side of the palette, red, orange, and yellow, whilst high school and tertiary students gravitate towards the cooler side of the colour wheel, blue, green, and mauve. Cooler tones help increase calm and support learning, and works not only with focus, but levels out hormones too. The best colour selection for different spaces within the education building, which are best suited for specific environments, are: the blue colour family works well in science and math-based classrooms by lowering the heart rate and allowing concentration to kick in. For libraries, counselling rooms, and social studies rooms, the natural colour of balance, green and blue, are best. Gentle energy yellows are great for classroom dealings with language and other creative pursuits like fine art, dance, and culinary arts. Oranges and peach tones support athletic facilities, drama, and visual arts. However, it should be noted that too much can overstimulate, so it's best to balance these colours with a complementary cool tone. Entrances and hallways are a great platform to showcase school colours and foster a sense of community. Stronger colours may be used to uplift the energy in between classes and balanced out with neutral tones. The variety of colour within a room should also be addressed. Too little variety may set up patterns of boredom, fatigue, eye strain, and introversion. Conversely, too much can overwhelm the mind with overstimulation.
So colour is a very interesting topic, especially for a lot of manufacturers, whether it's laminates, flooring, wall covering, ceiling covering. It also has to be, so the range has to be economically and commercially viable. So a lot of manufacturers, even fabric manufacturers, have to see what's on trend and manufacture products that are what's on trend and will be selected for their items to be used. So bright colours, even though that's the case, they're a small part of the range of a lot of manufacturers' portfolios. However, it's much more easier to use colour today than it was many years ago, simply because technology. Printing laminates used to be a two-colour process. So the laminate or the melamine board starts off with, think about your wrapping paper at home that you wrap presents with. The design's on one side, and on the back of it, you have like a white or an off-white. So it starts off like that. It used to be a two-color process. Now it's a four-color process. So we're able to incorporate some of the other brighter colors as a base. So you'll have your range, which is a cool range. You'll have your range, which is a warm range, and you still have some bright colors in the range. But because of technology, we've been able to incorporate that into others. It's not just our business, but other businesses as well. There's only a handful of laminate manufacturers that are operating here in Australia, and they have the same sort of processes and procedures. So it's come a long way.
According to Sylvia O'Brien, Creative Director of Colour Theory, the atmosphere we want in a classroom may be twofold. For example, in one type of classroom, a calm, pale neutral works for most of the room, with the front wall in a functional mid-tone that allows the students to intermittently rest their eyes from the high contrast of the text they are absorbing. One study, which was published in the Journal of Building and the Environment, found that classroom design could be attributed to a 25% impact, either positive or negative, on a student's progress over the course of an academic year. According to the study, it has long been known that various aspects of the built environment impact on people in buildings. But this is the first time a holistic assessment has been made that successfully links the overall impact directly to learning rates in schools. The impact identified is in fact greater than we imagined. The visual diversity of the floor layout, ceiling, and other such materials should be enough to stimulate students' attention, but also allow for order and calm. The selection of flooring, joinery, and furniture adds textural highlights and flashes of colour within a scheme. Adding texture enables the specifier to create environments which are distinct, inspirational, and purposeful, whilst providing a stimulating basis for natural curiosity, exploration, and discovery. The differences between a wooden table featured next to a woolen rug and a plant placed in a room is fascinating for a child and adds excitement to a learning environment. One of the tenets of the Reggio Emilia approach is that the environment is seen as the third teacher.
Texture is also a very important part of the learning process. We live in a tactile society at the moment where, it's very important to touch and feel. I know myself, I go to a restaurant now that we're all allowed to go out and everything else. I'm touching and feeling the table. Is it a laminate? Is it a real stone? Is it a timber or a laminate? But even materials, think about yourselves when you go and shop for clothes or fabrics, always touching. So you go from an extreme texture to a really tactile, soft, smooth surface. Same thing with the schools. They try and introduce different textures to try and teach and have a good learning outcome with different surface materials. So kids can learn what's going to be better for the touch as well.
Driving this approach is the belief that if children are given beautiful and stimulating materials to work with and allowed to work in an environment that is well organised and maintained, that they will in turn maintain and respect their own and the broader environment. For the purpose of this module, we will look at joinery as an example. Creating interesting joinery and cabinetry is important. There are a number of finishes and textures of melamine board and laminates that serve the purpose of design and performance.
So the word melamine and laminate, it'll go into it a little bit more detail. This particular environment here, the top could be a high pressure laminate with black edging, or it could be a compact laminate. So compact laminate doesn't require edging because it pours black. And melamine only refers to the surface of the product. So melamine refers to a layer of craft paper, and that normally the substrate can either be particle board or MDF. But the paper goes through, one of the days where they used to spray glue and then try and put the paper on top and make sure that it sticks. Again, we refer to grandmother's kitchen, where you remember that those corners used to peel off. Nowadays, what happens is after it goes through a printing process and that required design is achieved, it goes through an impregnation process where the resin is impregnated into the fibers of the paper and then allowed to dry and then pressed onto board. Generally speaking, the facings of joinery, the doors and panels, are MDF substrate, with the carcass being particle board substrate, because particle board is easier to, cheaper, more cost effective to manufacture, as well as you'll get a smoother finish with MDF, so it's normally used for the facings.
Consider HPL for surface benchtops and for joinery and cabinetry. Decorative battens can provide a warm and rich textural appearance for a wide variety of panelling, ideal for wall and ceiling applications in vertical or horizontal setouts. Pre-finished decorative battens create strong directional lines, adding a striking feature, and depending on its application, can enable visibility for the safety of younger
children. This is a really
children.
good example of where decorative battens is used. So you've got a hallway here, you've got hard surface on the floor, so you can imagine it'd be very noisy It's a corridor, lots of people talking, lots of sound of walking, but then you've got seating. So how does that work? The battens will reduce the sound waves, so the reverberation, so it's not bouncing on hard surfaces. But then where the seating is, they've got the felt back, which absorbs the sound. So sitting in an area like that, you can certainly have a conversation with someone that's next to you, and it'll be quite the sound will be quite good, and you won't get a lot of sound coming in. And at the same time, it's aesthetically pleasing.
Spacing is the distance between each individual batten and will not only affect the aesthetics, but any ancillary function. Privacy improves, as does acoustics and the control of sunlight. As the distance between battens increases, these abilities are reduced somewhat. However, visibility, that is, being able to see through the series of battens, is improved. In addition to boasting warm, natural aesthetics, as we have discussed, decorative battens can help with everything from privacy and acoustic protection to sun and light control. Blending unique textures, tones and finishes to achieve a contemporary look when it comes to cabinetry and joinery is important to design, as previously discussed, as it is to combining warm colours with cool accents and matte surfaces with a glossy finish. This also includes lockers and bench tops, which also need to hold up to heavy daily use. For example, Prestwood ELC in the UK has used decorative battens in a vertical application on an external wall in the play area with bold colours. This next image shows a library space in Worcester, England, where both form and function have been addressed through the use of horizontal battens in a natural wood grain finish. There are infinite possibilities when it comes to joinery design and construction. The only limitation is that of the imagination. Multifunctional design is ideal. For example, pigeonholes at ground level, which also function as seating, aquarium seating, circular reading nooks situated amongst bookshelves, purpose-built iPad and technology spaces with inbuilt docking stations, semi-concealed breakout spaces for flexible working, custom shelving to display work, cocoon-like bookshelves like those pictured in this library space in Monterrey, Mexico, provide a tranquil space for readers to immerse themselves in the story. The possibilities are endless. A great example is the Vennesla Library in Norway, which is shown here. Beneath the wood structures, shelving to house books are formed in the alcoves. The successive curves shelter folded benches for comfortable seating. Playing with different shapes, colour and texture of materials as shown in these images is key. Flexible properties of space fluidity represents the design of space for flows of individuals, sight, sound and air. As stated by Cordill, open spaces lend themselves to fluidity, yet can hinder fluidity if they are oppressive in their expansiveness. In such cases, well-placed screens in classrooms, for example, can increase a sense of intimacy while triggering curiosity for the space that flows around the screen. Such a space then becomes more engaging and less overwhelming. Such fluidity also allows for versatility and convertibility into multi-purpose rooms. Educators must often convert spaces to accommodate for changes in enrolment, curriculum, or pedagogy. Space designed for convertibility requires an imagination for future eventualities. It should possess a degree of modularity and open-endedness at a structural level which is open to redesign for future modifications. Leggett et al. Discuss modifiable spaces as spaces that invite imaginative experimentation. The design of such spaces requires much forethought because these spaces must take into account many structural dependencies, such as ceiling configuration for lighting and air circulation, and floor materials for ease of partition movement. As we know now, flexible and efficient space utilization is becoming a must. Intelligent solutions are needed that facilitate multifunctional room configuration combined with openness and, when required, transparency as well. According to Michael Horn, who is the co-founder of the Clayton Christensen Institute in the USA, states that the classroom as we know it will cease to exist. Students will no longer be sorted together in a room with one teacher in the front. He believes that students will best learn in student-centred environments, where their individual needs are met. In order to achieve this goal, it is critical that the physical space is able to be manipulated to align with the principles of student agency, flexibility, and choice that are the core of new learning models. Because these models will leverage multiple modes of learning, they will need spaces built for different activities, which can occur individually through digital media or in small interactive groups. Architect Larry Kearns from Wheeler Kearns Architects, who was the designer for the cutting-edge school space in Chicago, suggests that, ideally, spaces for all these modes of learning can be located in the same physical space, interlocked to minimise disturbances between them. The combination of learning spaces will be inherently decentralised since it focuses on the students. The teacher's desk, if there is one, is pushed to the margins. Another design proposition for school buildings is vertical schools. Vertical schools are a relatively new phenomenon in Australia, with many Australians now embracing apartment and city living more than ever before. The need for inner-city education buildings is on the rise. This surge in vertical thinking when it comes to education institutions is increasing. Is this the future of education spaces in Australia? In Japan, 99% of schools are vertical. The reason for this is straightforward. Vin Lee from Wood and Grieve Engineers, who specialises in vertical schools, explains. They don't have enough land in Japan to do anything else. South Melbourne Primary School, the first high-rise state school in Victoria, opened its doors at the beginning of the 2018 school year to over 160 students. Richard Leonard, director of Hayball, the architecture firm behind the innovative new facility, said the South Melbourne Primary School project is a real reference point for vertical schools in Australia. At South Melbourne Primary School, spaces are arranged around learning communities.
Are you seeing much of this kind of thing, vertical schooling, here in Brisbane or in Queensland? You don't really have a problem with space here.
Oh, we do have some
Do you?
areas, West End for one, the new ones just here.
Yeah. So more city-based schools are looking to, yeah.
Even the temporary buildings, not 2 or 3 stories.
Right, yeah.
When it comes to designing a primary or secondary school, Leonard says that a lot of the fundamentals are identical, particularly in the development of learning communities rather than classrooms. While the provision of specialist spaces may be slightly different between primary and secondary, Leonard says there are many consistencies in the way both schools promote the cross-disciplinary aspects. Melbourne's first vertical school, Hailbury City Campus, welcomed its first cohort of students in January. In nearby Paran, the Victorian Government's $25 million high school on Swinburne University's old campus is taking shape. In Sydney, the New South Wales Government has plans to rebuild Parramatta's Arthur Phillip High School into a 17-storey tower, while another high-rise school in Surrey Hills will cater to 1,200 students. Now that we have addressed design considerations and acoustical importance to learning outcomes, let's now shift the discussion to the quality and performance of products used for these applications. In such multifunctional high-activity spaces, building materials need to be easy to maintain and durable. Building materials that are used in education buildings should not negatively affect the health of the students or teachers and must contribute to a healthy indoor climate. We will look at selecting materials, finishes, and building systems which reduce maintenance and replacement costs. The school environment can be tough on joinery, and when it breaks, can be a hazard. The best approach is to specify Australian-made products that are manufactured to Australian standard or international standards in line with NCC requirements. Maximising efficiency, increasing productivity, and containing costs are key. The materials should not contain or off-gas harmful chemicals in the manufacturing, installation, lifetime of use, or disposal. Manufactured timber products, known as melamine boards, are the most common material used. The debate here is which substrate is the best fit. The Buildings Authority Standards Handbook, May 2018, Victoria, details the compliance requirements for engineered wood products, formaldehyde emissions which must comply with either. Product certification in accordance with a GBCA recognised product certification.
So GBCA is Green Building Council of Australia, and they have a Green Star program. So selecting different products will give you different credit points, and that'll go to a different star program. Anybody can say, okay, we manufactured this product and it's environmentally friendly, but you need to have manufacturers need to have a external company come in and do an audit. So the Green Building Council of Australia have got a handful of companies that are authorised to do these audits, such as Green Tag, Eco Specifier, which is based here in Queensland, or AACA. So they go in to a manufacturer like us, for example, and test our product, look at all our inventory, where it's coming from, and then they'll give you a level rating and credit points.
Scheme, or laboratory testing in accordance with Table 13.2 formaldehyde emission limit values for engineered wood product. Medium density fiberboard, or MDF, is an engineered wood product formed by breaking down real wood, Pinus radiata, residuals into wood fibres and glued back together with special resin by applying high temperature and pressure. Medium density fiberboard is a high quality substrate material that is smooth, and its dense core allows for ease of painting and cutting to achieve for precision detail. MDF offers superior screw holding when pre-drilled. Due to its density, it is heavier than particle board and generates more fine wood dust when cutting. This product also comes in a moisture-resistant MR MDF as fire retardant EO/E1 EN 13986. Particle board is produced in a similar process to MDF. In both products, the same wood, Pinus radiata, and resin is used. However, wood fibres in particle board are bigger than MDF, and therefore less dust is generated when cutting. Another important factor that should be understood is the interlocking of the larger wood chips in particle board, rather than the fine wood fibre of MDF. As we have explored briefly, the two most popular core materials for the construction of joinery, another point to consider is the volatile organic compounds, VOCs. Concerns that were brought to the attention of the Australian public in the early 1990s were formaldehyde emissions. Different levels of formaldehyde are found in most materials. There are products that have much safer levels of off-gassing. These are available and are fit for purpose, but are unfortunately not often specified unless specifically requested.
So MDF, Australian-made MDF, medium density fiberboard, off the shelf is available in E0. E stands for emission, 0 is a level of gassing. Particle board off the shelf is available in E1. However, the Green Building Council of Australia have given same credit points for particle board and MDF. I can't speak for what happens overseas, but the Australian manufacturers, there's only a handful of manufacturers in Australia that make MDF and particle board. I think we all know who they are. And there's no, the only VOC that could be in board made in Australia is formaldehyde, but there's no pesticide or urea or anything like that. Yeah.
WorkSafe Australia has established 1 part per million TWA, time-weighted average, over an 8-hour period with 2 parts per million STEL, short-term exposure limit, of 15 minutes as the safe level for occupational exposure. New Zealand has an OEL, occupational exposure limit, of 1 part per million that cannot be exceeded at any time. There are currently no legislative requirements for indoor air quality, under which formaldehyde emissions from products are regulated in Australia or New Zealand. However, indoor air quality is a topic for consideration in future updates to the Building Code of Australia. Internationally, the generally accepted emission limit is 0.1 parts per million. Over the past 20 years, emissions from these products have been reduced by approximately 90%, with emissions from Australian-made products now very low. How would you select the right system or components for toilet partitions? If it is a high traffic area, then it needs to be highly robust and impact resistant. Typically, 3 material options are available in Australia. The first and most commonly used is compact laminate, or otherwise called solid phenolic, of 13mm thickness. The core is generally black and the sheet doesn't require edging. For more colour or texture variety in medium impact resistant range of options, MDF 32mm thick, hand laminated with a wide range of laminates can be used. Sheet size is important. Optimal 3,660 by 1,830mm. When using compressed fibre cement sheet, keep in mind that a horizontal or H-profiled aluminium member is required in the middle of a partition division panel. For budget-wide substrate, use melamine pre-finished MDF or HMR particle board 33mm or 18mm thick, edged with 2mm thick solid colour PVC. Bear in mind that there are board...
So, especially in education buildings, compact laminate is the preferred product to be used. You can, for budget schools, sometimes there are projects which comes to the washroom area, the budget's all gone, been spent elsewhere. So you can use particle board or MDF substrate. Just remember that you need to, when designing your toilet partitions, you need to design them with spigots or legs. It needs to come off the ground, because otherwise the particle board or MDF will misbehave. Cleaners normally get in there and try and wash all the, especially in the environment where we are today, lots of germs and viruses. So they try and wash all that away. So particle board MDF will misbehave. The optimum sheet size is 3600 by 1800. And that's not just for taller cubicles or washroom facilities. It's also for desking environments where, there are increments of 600 or 900, 1800 desks. So 3618, you can, that it's the most optimized sheet size that we can find in Australia. You can get 3600 by 12, you can get 1800 by 2400, that kind of thing, where when you cut out of them, the offcut will be quite large. So the price of the offcut that the joiner is going to be throwing away, they'll put that through to the part of the furniture that you're going to be using. So you might start off with a cost-effective square meter price, but by the time you work out the offcut as well, that drives the cost up. So when you're selecting, try and look at things that are 3600 by 1800.
Sheet size constraints. Optimal sheet size is 3,660 by 1,830mm wide. Anything less than 1,600mm in width would require a joint inner panel. 13mm multi-purpose compact laminate is the preferred material to be used in toilet and shower cubicles within educational building. This is due to its strength and durability. To ensure dimensional stability, a top rail is required which negates the flex in a product. Whilst grab rails are tested to withstand 1,100 Newton as required by the AS 1428, when installing them on a partition or divider panel, it is the responsibility of the installer to ensure both the partition wall and the screws used to fix the product can also withstand the required weight, not to mention other environmental conditions such as corrosion. Therefore, the grab rail is suggested to be fixed by bolting through the divisional panels using 6.4mm. Threaded rod and dress nuts or proprietary plates such as bolt-through handrail fix plates. The same applies with toilet paper roll holders. When fixing to a cavity wall, Adequate structural member inside the cavity is required, such as additional nogging. Compact laminate can also be used.
Just on that point there, with taller cubicles, we always try and advise to do the ambulance toilet in the corner. But the reason for that is we can't tell what the installers are going to be using to secure the partition division to the back wall with. So there's a lot of hardware suppliers out in the marketplace, and there's some fantastic products out there, and you might specify the right equipment to use, but we don't know what the installer is going to be using. So if you put the grab rail into a division, what happens is the grab rail and the connections are tested for the weight, but the division itself might not be, fixed properly. So when you put weight on it, the whole division might fall, but the grab rail will still be on there. So we've seen that a lot. So what we recommend is ambulant cubicles, try and put them in the corner. That way the grab rails, the two that you need, one at the back and one on the side, you can actually fix them to a wall, whether it's brick or concrete or noggins, like what the video, Leanne in the video is suggesting.
For bench tops and wall lining. When selecting materials for wall linings in washrooms, 5mm compact laminate is a low budget but effective option for wet areas and high traffic areas. Unlike ceramic tiles, compact laminate is far less susceptible to cracks and damage. As momentum is growing towards the global recognition of the rights and struggles of transgender society, schools are also faced with new challenges around bathroom access. Whilst not yet legislated, many businesses and architects have initiated reform by adding single-user washrooms, in addition to men and women's washrooms. For commercial buildings, the BCA prohibits gender-neutral facilities with the exception of a single facility for when there are less than 10 employees. In accordance with BCA requirements, accessible facilities must be unisex. As gender-neutral toilets are outside of the prescriptive requirements of the BCA, one can look at the design from a performance base. The use of gender-neutral signage also differs from what is set out in the current BCA. For some transgender students, the bathroom has become a battleground where they are taunted, abused, and bullied. Some students feel the need to wear a nappy to school while others refrain from drinking, rather opting for dehydration in order to avoid using a bathroom. By rethinking washroom design, what was once an afterthought for architects now requires more consideration as awareness increases, for things that may be heading for rapid change. Does design affect learning? The answer is an unresounding yes. We have explored the future of school design and its impact on learning, teaching, and well-being. We understand that involving stakeholders in the design process encourages ownership and a sense of belonging and achievement in their environment, which can lead to more positive learning outcomes. As Hamilton Wilson of Architecture AU explains, education design of the future must have the needs of the student at its heart. In the campus of the future, the environment adapts to how students want to learn. Designing spaces that are flexible and community-focused requires a multidisciplinary approach that considers teaching and learning models for physical campus, future technology, and the student's entire experience.
All right. Shall we go through the quiz together? Sounds like a good idea. Okay. So, question 1, according to the Journal of Building and Environment, classroom design impacts the student's progress by? Good work. Question 2, gender neutral facilities are outside of the prescriptive requirements for the BCA for commercial buildings.
True.
True.
Not for long.
Not for long. They reviewed it. BCA went through a big review, and they're releasing some of they're starting to release the new codes in March 2023, and sort of that whole year, there'll be different parts of the code being released. Question 3, what is the preferred material to be used in toilet and shower cubic wet education? Compact laminate, yep. B. When considering joinery and cabinetry for functional design, which example was given? Yes. Good stuff. What does the pedagogical framework create?
Sorry, I didn't hear that answer from the audience. Could you repeat the answer to that last question?
Which one?
Question 4.
Question 4 was
Yeah.
aquarium seating.
Aquarium seating.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
That's okay. And 5 is structure and philosophy of teaching and learning. Question 6, which is best suited for blue in education building? Science. Yep, that's D. C. Sorry, task. And education design of the future should all of the above. Terrific. Thank you. So just quickly, we've got a couple of minutes left. I'd like to share with you a couple of things from the Polytec website that are relevant to today's presentation. So the first thing I just quickly wanted to touch base on is a product called sticker wood. So sticker wood is basically a batten which has a foil around the batten. So the batten, the substrate of the batten is either an MDF or an LDF. It's E0, and the color around is a foil which matches the Polytec product offer. Okay, not the whole range is there because the Polytec product range is quite extensive. So what we do is we've limited the range. You've got different designs. This is the color range at the moment. You can get it raw if you want to apply a certain paint to it or a veneer. But then you can, these are the colors that are available currently. And these are the different profiles that are available. So you've got your cove profile, you've got your half round. These are fairly popular. And then you've got your more standard profile.
Do they come in panels or individual?
They come in individual. Yeah. You could. There's a number of ways you can install them. There is a click mechanism where it's a Hayfley and Bloom have a system where you screw a part of it to the back of the batten and then a part onto the wall and it just clicks in. You can have a board and you screw it from the back, stick it on the board, and then you put the board onto the wall. You can direct fix with a glue as well. So we've got a suggested method of suggested glue is Tech 7. Tech 7 is being tested with a lot of different weights and so forth. So that could work as well. So there's a variety of different mechanisms. There's also a mechanism where you can connect it from the top and the bottom, especially if you're using it in a like a room divider system, which you'll see in some of the gallery.
What's the difference between this and wood?
So this is not real wood. This is MDF substrate. It's quite cost effective, readily available. You don't have to stain it. You don't have to lacquer it. You just specify it. The joiner or the installer will get it off Polytec and install it.
So it's veneer?
It's a foil.
Everything you use is outside.
It's internal. It's impact there, just like this is a melamine. This is not melamine. It's a hybrid of a foil system where you can have it's quite good, quite hardy. I mean, it gets used a lot in different areas. It's not structural, so it's only MDF. So it's moisture resistant MDF. Moisture resistant, environmental friendly. It is currently available in group 3. So you need to use it in, if you're going to use it in a foyer, it's going to have sprinklers. We can get it in a higher group rating. We just need to know about it to be able to make it. The other, and please go through, feel free to go through the gallery. There's lots and lots of different ideas and where it's been used and so forth. We won't have time to go through all that today. The other range I quickly wanted to touch base on is the commercial range. So the commercial range of products, we'll just go to the color range. So as we discussed earlier, there are some bright colors in the Polytec range. So if you need the brighter colors, however, what we've done because of the, we've got a cool range of colors. Let's look at the Angora. So you've got the base color and then you've got other colors and the timber print on top. And it's got a wood matte texture, which is like a sandblasted veneer. Okay, so that's similar to a sandblasted veneer.
So big difference in price between the and this one.
Yes, this is much more
1/3.
cost effective.
1/3, half, something.
It's probably half, if not more. Then you've got the Ravine range. Ravine is like a raw timber. So it feels, it's got that texture of the raw timber. It's also got a warm base to it as well.
Is it natural veneer or just natural veneer? Or-
No, this is a laminated melamine. Yeah, we don't
You don't do that.
we don't do natural veneers. So all our products are they're sourced from a sustainably managed
Yeah,
forest.
It looks very natural.
Yeah, and we try not to have any kind of you know, we try not to source. We don't actually source any timber from native forests. It's all from plantation forest. Yeah.
It's on. Clear.
It's pre-finished. It's pre-finished. If you want to paint it, you need to buy a special undercoat primer and put that on it and then paint it. You've done it. No, it doesn't work. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, just go with the pre-finished product. So all the sheet sizes for the commercial are 3600 by 1800 and available in 18, 25 and 33 mil. The last product I want to quickly discuss with you is Polytec's compact laminate for toilet partitioning. Okay, so all the matte and the smooth finishes, they're available with a antibacterial certification. So if you're working on any projects that require antibacterial, you'll get the certification with that to go with it. This comes in 13 mil thickness. It's got a black core. We do make a 5 mil for wall lining with a black core, and we make a product called Zenolith, which I'll show you just quickly in a minute. I'll just go to the gallery, go to the brochure, running out of time quickly. So here you'll see the compact laminate. And so remember we talked about how the printing is today and technology. So we've been able to produce products that look and feel like real stone. So these products come in a honed marble finish. So it's a super matte, feels like honed marble. We call it, you know, smooth. And the print itself, it's a full color process. So you've got that depth of character. You can see it in the timber print, looks and feels like real veneer. And this looks and feels like real stone without the cost. Yes. Yep. It's so. Yep. Yeah. Water resilient. It's also we've got it for toilet partitions. We've got it in two profiles. There's the modesty edge where you can't see through, and then you've got the more traditional arras edge. And then these are all the different toilet cubicles that you can certainly specify from. Okay, just quickly, you can go through the gallery at a later stage and just quickly show you the Xenolith product before we wind up. And I'll get to the questions in the chat in a minute. So Xenolith is a 15 mil thick product. Just go to the brochure. Oh, page is broken. That's okay. We won't need it. I'll talk through it. And this is the color range. So this product has the white colors. They'll have a white core, so still phenolic resin core, but it's white, not black. And the gray colors will have a gray core. So it looks and feels like, you know, real stone. If you've got, say, for example, a kitchen, that'll be white. Gone are the days where you have to worry about laminate. You got to put the sink over the laminate. Now you can have it undermounted, and it won't affect your substrates. You know, if you're doing, say, you're doing a fit out for a hotel or a university, or when you want a tabletop or even a commercial office space, that would suit perfectly. So, etching, correct? No need to etching. It's just solid. So the compact is black, Xenolith is white or grey.
And you can chamfer the board?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. You can have like a shark nose, no worries at all.
So show this thickness.
15.
Same material.
Yeah, this is 15. All the solid all the way through. The compact is 13 mil and 5 mil for wall lining. And finding the wall lining has really become very popular because if you're building pods, for example, having stone or tiles normally cracks in the movement, you can have a 5 mil compact straight onto the pod, bathroom pod. We see it being used a lot in hotels. So for hotels, if you want to have Calcutta marble, for example, in the back of the shower wall, is quite expensive. By the time you come to build a shower, the cost is gone. So the 5 mil compact laminate just works tremendously. And that kind of thing here.
And 5 mil has the black core.
The black core, yeah.
We obviously don't see it. It's on the wall.
That's right, yeah, you won't see it. This is probably a bit overkill with all the marble look. But
Any adhesive?
yeah. You can use different silica-based adhesives. That's no problem at all. You can certainly use Tech 7. Tech 7 is the highly recommended one that we suggest. You can use a batten system. You can use a T system. This here is what you see. That's 13 mil compact laminate, and they've just miter joined. Okay, and the wall is 5 mil compact.
And then glue it to the frame.
They glue it to the frame or to an existing wall. Yeah.
The secret section which you mentioned in the first one. Can work here. Clips. Or
Yep.
candles.
The battens. Yeah.
So we look to this back and then fix that.
Correct. Yeah, correct. All right. That's it from me, unless you've got other questions. Stop sharing.
Don't you
I'll
want
turn my video on and stop sharing. There we are. There's me on that screen. What's that? I share screen.
There is one.
I think we will want to chat.
Chat.
Yes.
Here we go. My mic is not working. Is one answer B? Yes. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. If you need any other information, you're more than welcome to reach out.
Thank you, George.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks a lot. See you later.
George, I have one question for you that's probably not relevant to the whole forum, but I've had struggle accessing Xenolith for private clients. I like the product very much, but there was an owner builder who wanted to do their own kitchen, and the reps weren't prepared to talk to them. What can I do to get around that?
What was it? Sorry, what was the challenge again, if you don't mind me asking? Need to speak up a little bit.
Okay. A client of mine, they are owner builders, and I recommended Xenolith for their bench tops in their kitchen. When they talked to Polytec wasn't prepared to sell the product to them. They said they only deal through cabinet makers.
Correct. Yes.
So
yes, we don't deal directly with the public.
No, but this is a big obstacle to using the product in many instances. I recommended it to them, and they had so much trouble just trying to talk to people at Polytec. They weren't interested, which is a shame.
You're welcome to, if you want to forward my details directly to them, I'm happy to.
Oh, it's too late now. They went with a different product, but it was very frustrating for them. So I'd like to overcome that frustration with future clients, because I like Xenolith very much for bench tops.
Yeah, all they need to do though is just they need to, if they jump on the Polytec website, they can get samples, but that's as far as we go with clients. They need to talk to a joiner to be able to get prices and quotes from them.
Yeah, I've even had joiners say, no, they can't get the product from Polytec. They recommended a different product because they couldn't deal with Polytec.
They can't buy the product from us. No, they need to go through a joiner. We
yeah,
don't
but I've even had joiners have trouble with this, not just.
Oh, that's interesting.
Public. So
that's very interesting. I haven't experienced that, but there was a gentleman just here. He said he had trouble dealing directly with Polytec, so he went through a joiner and everything went okay. But you're more than welcome to, in the future, if you have any issues, just give whoever you're dealing with my details, and I'm more than happy to deal directly with them and put them in the right path.
Yeah. Well. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, George. Yeah.
No worries at all.
Good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My pleasure. Thanks for joining.
Thanks. Bye.